Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Really excited to have you back for another video. Backing up your computer. That actually can mean a lot of different things. In fact, one of the first video I ever did on YouTube was showing folks how to back up their data. Backing up your data is actually one form of backing up your computer. Now this video shows you how to take your data from an old computer and put it on an external hard drive and then use that external hard drive to put it on a new computer, meaning move the data from an old computer to a new computer. And that is a form of backing up your computer. Now if you're interested in watching that video, I'll put a link in the description below. There'll also be a link somewhere in the screen here, and that video will take you directly to transferring your data from an old computer to a new computer. But once you're done watching that and understanding how to back up your data from that perspective, come on back to this video because we're going to learn a new meaning of what backing up your computer means. Now the question is, what other form of backing up makes sense? Why would we want to back up our computer more than just the data? I think the data is the most important, right? But let me show you an example of why backing up your computer in a different form, and in this form, we call it the OS level, why that is important. Let's take a look. So here in my hand is an HP Spectre 360. And I actually like this computer. I think this computer is kind of cool. It's very portable. It's powerful to do most of your work, especially for folks who are doing things just day in, day out, browsing, maybe typing up some documents, coding. I mean, the list goes on, right? It's powerful enough to do all these things. And not only is it portable, but what I like about it is you can actually turn it into like a tablet in order to read stuff. I mean, if you know me, I read a lot of books, and this is a fantastic computer in order to have a tablet style where you can read your books on the go. Really, really cool. But one of the issues with this computer that the customer brought in, and hopefully you can see this. Let's take a look. So at this angle, I hope that you can see this, and I think you can. There is a big crack that goes along the screen here. Just a nice big crack. And I don't know exactly what the customer was doing with this computer. And unfortunately, it looks like they cracked it very, very well. Even though this computer has a crack on it, if we power it up, it actually turns on and it actually works, meaning the display works. And you can see that with the HP coming online. This crack is here in the middle, which is actually causing some problems with the touchscreen because this computer is also touchscreen as well. We're gonna send the computer out for repair. When you send out a computer for repair, they always wipe out the hard drive. Why? Because there's a series of tests that they go through to make sure that all the components are working on the computer before they send it back out to you. So now the question is, if you have your data and they wipe the computer, does it not really matter because you can always restore the data? Well, not necessarily, because your time is really the valuable thing here. So let's talk about what I mean by time. Now, for those who don't know, a computer is made up of many different things in order to make it work. Now, just to give you an example of what happens behind the scenes to make a computer work, you typically have, at a basic level, an operating system. And in this case, with this computer, we're dealing with Windows specifically, and the version of Windows is Windows 11. And then another layer on top of the operating system is software, and that's software that allows us to communicate with the hardware. Let's say, for example, you're interested in making the camera work, or maybe you are on a Zoom call and you want to make the microphone work. All those things require software in order to talk to the operating system to make sure that the input devices that we just talked about, meaning camera or microphone, actually work when you need them to. And we call that drivers. Okay, so now that you have your operating system and you have your drivers, what else goes on top of that? Now you have your applications. And these applications are applications that you typically install in order to make sure that you have what you need to either work or play on the computer. Now that can be anything from Microsoft Office in order to write up a document or check your emails with Microsoft Outlook. That could also be any video games that you might play on the computer. Now, besides having the operating system, drivers, and also as well having any applications that you use on a day-to-day basis, there's one other thing on here that is very, very important and we do spend a lot of time on, and that is settings. There are settings that you can go in and say, hey, I'm gonna go change the power plan option so that way when I am working on the computer doesn't go to sleep after half an hour being on a battery. Another example of a setting that you can adjust in order to make the operating system work nicely for you is something that's called Storage Sense. Now, this is a setting that you can use in order to alleviate having to manage the space on your hard drive. So stay tuned to the channel as there's a video in the works to help you manage storage using Storage Sense on Windows 11. Now keep in mind, all these things that we just described how much time do you think it takes in order to build the computer back to the point that you had it before you send it out to repair? So think about that. Operating system, drivers, application, settings. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And I'll be honest with you guys, after many years of fixing computers, it's a lot of time. You send the computer out for repair, they go ahead and wipe it. The only thing you backed up now was your data. That means you got to spend the time now making sure all your settings are back in, making sure all the applications are in, and hope to God that you saved the executable in order to be able to put the application back on. I mean, there's just so much time that's going to be wasted. And this is a perfect example of why making a backup, specifically we call it an OS or operating system level backup. Part of an operating system backup, it takes a snapshot of where you are in time, meaning your operating system, your applications, your data, your settings, all that stuff gets backed up for you on an external media. And once you have that OS level backup, you can then send out your computer for repair, knowing that when it comes back, you don't have to spend your time trying to put it back to the way it was. And that's exactly the steps that I'm going to show you in this video. And this will put hours of your time back in your hands so you can do more important things. So let's walk through those steps. Before we get started with the steps, did you guys really think that I was going to go through this without telling you to subscribe to the channel? You want to turn on your notifications so that way you're aware of whenever we upload to the channel. Make sure you share the video with a family member or friend. Lastly, if this video helps you out, don't forget to give me a like. Giving a like helps the channel grow, and it also shoots the content to others who want to learn about computers. Here we have the HP Spectre 360. And the first thing that we're going to do, of course, is turn on the device. And once we get into the home screen of the device, we're going to plug in our external hard drive in order to hold our OS level backup. Now, if you don't have an external hard drive, I'll put a link in the description below in order for you to get one. Now, keep in mind, when you're shopping for that external hard drive, you want to make sure that you have enough space to hold that OS level backup. And I'll show you later on in the video how you figure that out. Welcome to the desktop. This is where we tackle on how we get the software that we need in order to do an OS level backup. And once we finish installing the software, then we can actually go into the steps of actually backing up, specifically an OS level backup of your computer. Remember, by now you should have an external hard drive plugged in. As mentioned earlier, I'll also show you how to make sure that you have enough space in order to do that OS level backup. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up our web browser and we're going to head over to www.easeus.com. Now that can be easeus.com, easeus.com, however you want to pronounce it. From the way that I have this window sized, I get a hamburger menu. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that to provide me all the different options that are available to me. And yours might look different, but the idea is you want to head over to backup and restore. And then once you're under backup and restore, you're going to look for to do backup personal. Now there's different versions of this. Click on to do backup free. Now I'll put a link in the description of where you can get this software. And of course, in order to try it out, it's free. So we're going to scroll down to where it says free download. It's going to ask you for your email. So we'll go ahead and put an email address there. And then we're going to click on try to do backup free. And then you're presented with an option where you can go with the free route or you can go with the home. We'll go ahead and hit download for the free route. And once the installer is done, we're going to go ahead and open the file. And you should be presented with the installer. And we're going to go ahead and click install now, and we're going to go with the install free option. So it's going to download a couple of things off the internet. So we'll give this a couple of minutes in order to make sure it downloads what it needs, and it goes ahead and installs the packages on your computer. Installation is now complete. So we can click on start now. We can ignore the website and bring that out of the picture. And we're going to work with the actual software now. So to do backup. So you're presented with the screen here in order to upgrade. For now, I'll close out of that. But what we are concerned with is creating a backup. So let's click on create backup. We're going to do an OS level backup. So make sure you click OS. Now that you've clicked OS level backup, you're presented with the option of selecting a destination of where you want to save that backup. So in our case, the computer automatically recognized that I want to save it to my external hard drive that I plugged in earlier. And that actually is the E drive. But if that wasn't the case for you, let's walk through the steps of how you pick where to save that backup. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the little computer icon. I'm going to click on local drive. And then this is the point where you browse to the area of your computer in which you have that local drive available to you. Because the computer automatically picked the right location for us, we can head back to where it shows the original screen of our system, and it shows us that we have 96.9 gigabytes. And then our backup drive, which is drive E, it shows us that we have 395.5 gigabytes available. Now, earlier I mentioned that you want to make sure that you have enough space on your external hard drive in order to support an OS level backup. And this is where you figure out how much space you need. So the software is telling you that you're going to need 96.9 or close to 97 gigs in order to capture all your data. And you want to make sure that you have that 97 gigs available in order to back that up. If you don't have that available, again, there's links in the description that you can go pick up a hard drive that will give you that space. There's nothing additional that needs to happen from here. All you do is click backup now, and you sit back and relax, or maybe just get yourself a cup of coffee and let the software do the work of backing up your computer. So we'll give this a couple of minutes in order to finish, and we'll continue the steps once it's done. At this point, we have successfully backed up the computer at an OS level backup. So there's nothing left besides closing the program down, shutting down the computer, and packaging this computer up for repair. So let's go ahead and do that now. As you can see, we just got the computer back from repair. We sent it out, and it took a little bit to get repaired. But at the end of the day, the computer's back in our hands, and we'll take it out of this box. We will inspect the computer just to make sure that the computer was repaired properly. And after removing all this plastic, and of course this padding, you can see that the monitor is repaired. There's no cracks there. And it looks like they did a very good job repairing this computer. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn on the computer just to make sure that everything is working. We're also going to test out the touchscreen to make sure that the touchscreen works. And after all that looks good, then we can go ahead and start restoring the computer. And of course, as we turn on the computer, we can see here that they did in fact wipe our data. So the computer is back on the Windows 11 startup screen. Now that we are at the Windows 11 startup screen, one of the problems that we face now is we're not looking to go through this process of setting up the computer manually because we're going to restore it from our backup. For those who don't know, Windows 11 has an interesting process, and especially if you're using Windows 11 Home, Microsoft requires you to sign up using an online account. Now, for our purposes, where we have a backup and we're going to restore it, we're not really interested in creating an online account. So I'm going to walk you guys through the step of how you can skip this process, meaning let's just create a temporary local account, meaning we're not going to sign up for anything through Microsoft. And after we're done with that, then we can go ahead and restore our computer with our backup that we created. First thing on the screen here that you see is making sure that the country or region is correct. And we're in the United States. So of course we're going to hit yes on United States. Next we get to the keyboard, and it's asking, is this the right keyboard layout or input method? And of course we're in the United States, so US is correct. Let's hit yes on that. Now it's going to ask if we want to add a second keyboard. We can skip that. Now here's the part where you have to connect, and specifically in Windows 11 Home, you have to connect to a network and you have to sign up for a Microsoft account in order to get to the desktop. But I'm going to show you guys a way around that so that way you don't have to go through that process. So as you can see here, it's asking me to connect to a network, and the next button is grayed out. It will not let me continue until I get to the point where I actually connect to a network and provided the credentials that we just talked about earlier. So what we're going to do on our keyboard when we get to this screen is we're going to hit Shift and F10 at the same time. So again, hold down Shift and press F10, and you should see that a command prompt comes up. You're going to type in this specific command, OOB/bypass NRO. Press enter, and you should see that the computer reboots on its own. So let's take a quick pause here and zoom into the command so that way you can see exactly what I typed in case if the previous instruction went a little too fast. So once the computer reboots on its own, you can go ahead and skip through all the processes that we did earlier. So again, making sure you click your region, making sure you click the keyboard, and all that good stuff up until the point where you get to connecting to a network again. And this time, when you connect to a network, right next to the next button, which is grayed out still, you have an option that appears now that says, I don't have internet. So let's go ahead and click I don't have internet. And then you can skip connecting to a network. And then you get to the next screen that says connect now to quickly get started on your device. We're going to click on continue with limited setup. And then we're going to accept the licensing agreement. It's going to ask us who wants to use this device. I'm going to go ahead and put test on here because again, we're just looking to have a temporary local account in order to restore our computer. So we're going to enter in a password. And now you get to the point where you have to answer some security questions. Again, we're just trying to restore the computer. So a lot of these security questions and answers I'm just going to make up because we just need to get to the desktop. We can skip setting up a fingerprint. We can hit next for the privacy settings. We can skip registering the HP product by hitting next. Click next for registering the product again. And we're going to give this about a minute or so while the computer prepares itself. And then after it's finished preparing itself, it should present us with the desktop. So let's give this a couple of minutes. Now that we're on the desktop, the first thing that we want to do is we want to plug in the external hard drive that is holding our OS level backup. As you can see here, I'm plugging in the USB-C cable to the computer, which has the backup stored on that external drive. Now, the next item on the list is to make sure that we install the program in order to restore the backup. And here's a pro tip. Instead of connecting to the internet to download that software again, I actually took the installer and put it on the actual external hard drive. So you can see me here going in and installing that, so that way I don't have to be connected to the internet in order to get that piece of software. Now, of course, I didn't instruct this earlier on in the video, so I don't intend on you having that software. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to connect to the internet. You're going to go back to the website that I pointed to earlier, and again, link is in the description. And you're going to download the software, and you're going to follow the instructions for installing the software as we did earlier on in the video. So as I'm done installing the software, Ease US to do backup comes up automatically. Once it comes up, we're going to get rid of the upgrade screen. Next, we're going to go to Browse to Recover, and we're going to select local drive, and we're going to browse for that recovery. So it's going to be under the E drive, it's going to be under my backups, system backup, and then we're going to click on the backup itself. And as you can see here, found our backup. Let's click next. We're going to select the hard drive. As you can see, by clicking the backup, it found our history version. So the default is okay. Let's click next. Now it's asking, how do we want to recover it to? And so we want it to match exactly what we had before. So let's go ahead and click on the small box that selects everything, meaning we want the computer to look exactly the way we had it. We're going to click next. A warning sign comes up that says system partition on the destination disk will be overwritten. Do you want to continue? And we're going to click yes to this because of course that was the purpose of restoring our computer back to the way we have it. Finally, we're presented with a screen that gives us what our end result will look like. So our current source, how the disk currently looks, and then what it's going to look like afterwards once we're done with the copy. So we're going to hit proceed on that. Once we click proceed, we're going to be presented with a small little pop-up window. That pop-up message basically tells us that the operation that we're going to be performing requires WinPE because the current disk that we're looking to reformat is being used. So it's asking us, do we want to create that Windows PE and reboot the computer to that environment? And of course, in order to continue with the restore process, we have to hit the continue button. So at this point, the computer is creating that recovery environment, and it's going to reboot the computer and go into that recovery environment and then restore the computer from the backup that we had to put it back to the way it was before we sent it out for repair. At this point, there's not much to do besides grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage, sit back and relax, and let the software do the work. By now, the computer should reboot. And once it reboots into Ease US to do backup. And as you can see, it will start restoring the computer back to the point where you saved it before. And then once it's done, all you have to do is hit finish. And as you can see here, the computer is restored back to the way it was before. And of course, we want to protect this customer's privacy, so we blurred out their name. Welcome back, guys. By now, you have all the information that you need in order to do an OS level backup. It really isn't that hard once you have the information and you know how to do it. So if you have any questions on the process, or you want to give me a suggestion for our next video, make sure you leave me a comment in the comment section below. If this video has helped you out, don't forget to give me a like for the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notifications by ringing the bell. The notifications will keep you updated whenever we upload new content to the channel. And last but not least, make sure you share the video with a family member or a friend. That way they can learn the process of how to do an OS level backup, and make sure that they can save themselves time whenever they have to restore a computer. So that'll do it for this video. Hope to see you guys in the next one.